almost everyone here has heard of at some point of the food pyramid. Basically, what sort of foods you should be eating and how much of these foods you should be eating to be healthy. But it's kind of bullshit, to be entirely frank and blunt. But because the thing is that it it kind of the amount of grains, they say you have to have more grains than any other food group, and for most people this is kind of not the case, because the thing is that it assumes that everyone has the same sort of lifestyle and energy expenditure, which is just not true, as you can tell. Like, some people have a ton of activity, some people have very little, some people have short bursts of activity, but with mainly not a lot, and all sorts of stuff. So it doesn't actually suit anyone's actual needs most of the time. But the thing is that you don't want to go to the complete opposite with the Atkins diet, completely cutting carbs from your diet completely, because that's not healthy either. You do need everything in the food, like all the food groups, but it doesn't mean that you need to have that much fucking grains for all body types. Or not, well, body types, yes, and also energy expenditure and lifestyles and things like this. So what carbs are fantastic for is that they are long-lasting, slow-burning energy. So if you have your sort of daily life, or even if you're just day by day choosing what kind of foods you're going to eat, if you have a lot of more, like, it's great for things endurance. Like, when I was working retail, I'd be on my feet all day, and I'd be walking around a lot, and I'd be restocking shelves. So it was a lot of kind of more endurance type exercise, if you want to go with that. So I had pasta for lunch, and I had really like oatmeal, granola cereal for breakfast, and everything else. So I had more carbs for the foods I would eat before doing these work, so my breakfast and lunch. And that worked really well for me when I was doing that, because it wasn't like serious strength workout. It was just endurance type, lower intensity, but for longer periods of time. So grains are fantastic for that, because again, they are long-lasting, slow-burning energy. But if you're doing it more intensive exercise or energy expenditure, then you'll want more proteins in your diet for that, because protein is great for that, especially if you're doing short bursts of it, of really, like, if your daily activity levels is mostly really low energy expenditure, and then these bursts of really high and intensive energy expenditure. Protein is perfect for that, so you want a high protein diet. But if you just in general have very low energy expenditure, so you work at the office and you drive to and from work. The previous one is, like, say you work at the office, but then you have to bike to and from work, or you occasionally have to do heavy lifting at work, but for the most part you're pretty low energy expenditure. And I say, like, some days when I was working, I would also make sure I had a decent amount of protein, because I would have to do, like, because when I was working in retail, I mainly worked at 3 different stores for the same company, because it was a family business with 3 locations, and 2 of the locations there was very little heavy lifting, so I didn't have to, it was mostly endurance. But one of them was the warehouse location, and while it was just a main store for the most of the store, they had the warehouse stuff in the back, so all of our heavy stuff, including strollers and cars, all sorts of heavy stuff like that. So I'd make sure I've had more protein along with those carbs that day, so I would have the carbs for the walking around restocking, light things, but then I would have the protein to handle the, bursts of having to do heavy lifting and whatnot. But yeah, so if you're, sorry to get back to, instead of backtracking and coming forward, but anyway, so if you're doing more low energy overall, so again, like, you're at your desk all day and then you drive to and from work and you don't have a huge amount or intensive energy expenditure, like physical, so I'm talking about your physical body, not your mental energy, and I'll get on that too, then you'll want more vegetables and fruits and dairy and stuff like that. Well, dairy can be high fat, so not so much, but you'll want, of the 3 main ones that give you energy and stuff like that, and aren't just for nutrients, you'll want more vegetables, but then also still protein, because especially proteins like fish, especially if you're doing more mental work, as well as dairy. There's a lot of dairies, yogurt being a prime example, that's fantastic for brain work and giving you energy for your brain. And I don't know all of them because I haven't totally looked into that, because usually I would cater it for the physical energy, because Yeah, but I found when I was in school, I had a very high protein. When I had a very high carb diet, it made me tired a lot, and it just made me feel bloated a lot and just gross and fat. I was getting fat, but then I switched to a very low carb but high protein, and I found that I had more mental energy and stuff like that too. So I was for when I was in school, because I'd be sitting at my desk all day, and just drawing all the time, which does have some physical whatever, because if you draw for 5 hours straight, your arm is going to be like, but it's in hand especially. So yeah, and so high protein, and like my mom, for example, she works at a desk and she drives to and from work, so not a lot of intensive stuff. So at lunchtime she tends to have chicken salad or some meat salad, like salad but with meat in it, so. But I know, like, there's vegans and vegetarians out there. You don't have to get your protein with meat, but make sure you are getting enough protein, because that is something that vegans and vegetarians can easily not get enough of, is protein. Because the thing is too, is complete proteins, and you have to eat a variety of different types of proteins, and even then you won't get all the types of proteins, whereas meat has complete proteins. But I know it doesn't come from a very nice place, so make sure you are making sure that you're healthy, because it's good to be healthy here. And another thing, and if you're the kind of person who just has a really hard time, like I can, like, because I'm bipolar, so when I'm depressed, I don't have any time or energy to want to do any sort of decent cooking or whatever the hell, so I want quick and easy. So if you're that kind of person typically, then it's easy to find. Frozen fruit section is my fucking savior for vegetables, for anything, because the thing is that frozen vegetables have more nutrients and are fresher than fresh vegetables. How is this possible, dear Kate? Well, this is because with the fresh vegetables, they're picked not for their quality, and they're picked before they're ripe, so that they can last. Just basically, they're picked for how long they can last, and not how much nutrients or their quality or anything else. It's because the thing is that they have to get shipped everywhere, right? And then they gotta last on the shelves for a while, and last a while in your kitchen before going rotten. So they don't have all their nutrients yet. Whereas when you get them from the frozen food section, they are picked at the optimal time and then frozen, because it doesn't matter if they have to travel for a while or last a while, because the frozen will just lock it away, and it can last years even. It's not advised to last years, but it can. And then you can get plenty of protein stuff at the frozen food section, and you can get plenty of decent carbs at the frozen food section and all this other stuff. So if you're the kind of person who likes quick and easy stuff but still wants to get their nutrients, frozen foods are your favorite. Do not get long-lasting stored non-frozen foods, because that tends to have a lot of salt in it, unless of course you have low electrolytes or sodium deficiency or something like that. And most people think that's impossible, but it does happen. I am proof of that. And you don't have to be skinny, because I saw this one post on Imgur, and it was a skinny girl who had it. It's like, oh, it's because she's not eating enough, so she's not getting enough salt. I'm fat, okay? And I know it doesn't look like it when you're just seeing my shoulders, but I'm actually quite fat. I wear plus size clothing and everything else. And I have issues getting enough sodium in my diet, because the thing is that because of my medication, I get dry mouth, so I'm drinking all sorts of water all the time, which flushes out electrolytes. And also I hate strongly flavored foods, like stuff that no one else considers spicy or salty or too sweet or whatever. I do, so I use very little seasoning on my food, so I end up intaking very little salt compared to most people. So, like, even when I go to McDonald's, most of the time they have too much salt on their fries. Like, before eating each fry, I'll, like, dust it off and then eat it. So, sorry, I got something in my eyes. But, yeah. So, basically, don't pay attention to there's not one set way of eating food. You have to have, that everyone's different, like, because also different body types, like, different bodies are better for different types of food. For example, like, look at your ancestry for this sort of things. Like, people who come from places where it's hard to grow stuff, they can last a lot longer and a lot healthier on just things like meat, eggs, and dairy and with very little vegetables and be totally fine and healthy compared to, because omnivores, that's the thing I've mentioned in the past, omnivores can survive on just about anything, but they're, you're healthiest with the diversity, but people from more, places where it's really lush and not a lot of animal are eaten, they survive better on more vegetable-based diets. So there's that, as well as activity level and genetics and your own personal nutritional needs, because I know myself, I have an iron deficiency, I have electrolyte deficiencies, and I don't get enough of everything because I need more, I don't get enough nutrients all the time because I'm not very good with this stuff. So with your own mental illness can affect your diet as well, or your mental capabilities, also how busy you are and all this other stuff. So just find ways to be healthy and suit your lifestyle and your needs and your whatever. Thanks for watching. Please don't hate me because I'm not a vegan or vegetarian. I do care very much about animal rights. I just can't help myself. I know I have very little self-control, which is why I'm fat. And also the mental illness thing makes it very hard to... I would rather eat meat and be healthy than eat junk food and not be healthy. So thanks, because I'd have a vegan friend and all she eats is Oreos and Doritos, and I would much rather eat, chicken and beef and stuff like that than Oreos and Doritos all the time. So I'm sorry. I know not all vegans are like that, but I'm poor and I don't have a lot of energy and I have ADHD too, so it makes it hard to plan ahead. I'm all scatterbrained and stuff. So I would be vegan if I could, I promise. Thanks for watching.